I'm going to retire from boxing before I let boxing retire me.
That I'm not comfortable with. You know, I had a great career. You know, I've done some tremendous things in the sport of boxing. I made a lot of history. You know, what can I not be proud of if I walked away from the sport right now? You know, I don't have no regrets because everything that I did it my way. So if I was to walk away from the sport right now.
Terence "Bud" Crawford has officially stepped away from boxing after months of mounting tension, legal battles, and public disputes with the WBC, as the undefeated and undisputed pound-for-pound king has now walked away from the very sport that turned him into a legend.
Retire, Bud. Retire, Bud. It's over. You ain't got nothing else to prove. Let's go fishing, Bud. Let's go fishing, Bud. Retire. Okay. It's over with.
I won.
The same man who ruled 3 weight divisions, unified championships, and moved with quiet confidence is now finished, gone, retired, stripped of his title, accused of contract violations, and criticized by legends of the sport. Crawford says the game he gave everything to, the one he bled and sacrificed for, ultimately broke him. So what really went on behind closed doors? What pushed one of the greatest fighters of this generation to lay down his gloves? Not because of defeat, but out of defiance. Let's uncover the real story behind Terence Crawford's shocking departure, a tale of betrayal, power struggles, and principle that has sent shockwaves through the boxing world.
You know, I always said that I'm going to retire on my own terms, and I'm going to feel good because everything that I did it my way.
It all started with a shocking announcement when, on December 3, 2025, the WBC officially stripped Terence "Bud" Crawford of his world super middleweight title, a move that sent shockwaves throughout the boxing world. The explanation given was that Crawford had refused to pay sanctioning fees for his last 2 bouts, including his massive $50 million blockbuster fight against Canelo Alvarez.
He never paid the sanction fees for that fight. His next fight was Canelo Alvarez. He fought for the WBC title as well as the other 3 organizations, and he won the WBC title and the undisputed. He became undisputed, and he did not pay the sanction fees for the fight.
Just like that, the man who once conquered the sport saw his crown taken away, his undisputed status erased, his title revoked, and his relationship with the WBC broken beyond repair. But as dramatic as it may sound, those close to the situation say this was anything but sudden.
He did not comply with the rules. Then he moves up to super middle and makes the fight of the century, beats Canelo, makes $50 million or around that. The WBC absolutely is not going to charge 3% of such an amount. We made a very clear 0.6%, which is $300,000.
Behind the headlines, Crawford's frustration had been building for years, quietly boiling under the weight of broken promises, behind-the-scenes politics, and a sport that often punishes the very fighters who elevate it. Crawford wasn't just battling opponents in the ring anymore, he was battling the system itself. And even before the WBC controversy erupted, he was already knee-deep in another fight, this one playing out in the courtroom. A lawsuit that put him directly against one of boxing's most powerful figures, promoter Bob Arum and his company Top Rank. In a fiery legal complaint, Crawford accused Arum of breach of contract, fraud, and even racial bias.
I wanted to give a real quick snippet of what I just found out. So Terence "Bud" Crawford just filed a lawsuit against Top Rank and Bob Arum, claiming racism and bias against black fighters.
According to Crawford, Top Rank had promised to land a unification bout with Errol Spence Jr., a fight fans had been demanding for years, but failed to come through. He alleged that in 2019 there was an agreement stating that if Arum did not make a good faith offer to Spence by the end of 2020, Crawford would be owed $900,000, a payment he says never arrived. Instead, Crawford claims he was left stuck in limbo, shut out of the biggest fight of his career, while Arum allegedly shifted his focus to other stars. Then came the most explosive claim of all, as Crawford accused Arum of repeatedly making racist and bigoted remarks that he says harmed the reputations of black fighters, including his own.
Terence Crawford is actually asking for $10 million in damages. He's basically stating that none of the fighters want to speak up, they don't want to say anything.
Arum fired back forcefully, dismissing the lawsuit as frivolous and reckless, saying, "Crawford's accusations are vile. I've spent my entire career promoting fighters of color. This lawsuit is nothing more than a malicious attempt at extortion." That legal battle marked the beginning of the end, drawing a clear line in the sand between fighter and promoter. Crawford soon parted ways with Top Rank, pledging to go independent and shape his legacy on his own terms. But instead of freedom, he walked straight into another storm when the WBC stripped him of his title, and Crawford didn't stay quiet. He went nuclear.
For sanction fees, right? Then he gonna tell me I ain't even apologize? Like, who the fuck you think I am? Boy, you better slap your fucking self and paying your ass shit.
In an 8-minute viral video that sent social media into a frenzy, Crawford went straight at the WBC, branding their belts as meaningless trophies and accusing the organization of pure greed. His message was raw, emotional, and filled with years of built-up frustration as he declared that the green belt didn't mean anything, insisting the only real belt is earned in the ring, and that they could keep their belt because it was nothing more than a trophy. That single statement alone sent shockwaves through the entire boxing community.
You, the WBC, and you got the fucking green belt, which don't mean fucking shit. The fucking real belt is the ring belt, which is free, motherfucker. What are you talking about? You want me to pay you more than the other sanction bodies because you feel like you better than them. How in the world all the sanction bodies agreed to the same amount, but you sit your motherfucking ass up there and say that I need to apologize?
Some fans praised him as a hero for finally calling out the hypocrisy of boxing's governing bodies, while others viewed it as a meltdown, believing a legend was damaging his own legacy. And even Errol Spence Jr., Crawford's longtime rival, felt compelled to weigh in on the situation.
I mean, it makes sense, but I mean, I think he should have talked about it, you know, before, because now he's talking about it when he don't need the WBC anymore. And he should have talked about it, you know, way back when I said something, he should have spoke up and said something about it too, you know, so I don't know, man. It is what it is.
Makes sense, Spence said, adding that Crawford was speaking up now only because he no longer needed the WBC, and that he should have said these things when it actually mattered. To some people, Crawford came across as bitter, while to others, he sounded liberated. But one thing was clear, he was no longer willing to play by boxing's rules. Then the new generation stepped in, as rising star Keyshawn Davis spoke out strongly in Crawford's defense.
I always say I never understand why we become champion and have to pay for a belt. Keep that shit. Yeah. Keep it. I'm not gonna work 14, 15 years for me to pay for something I worked for. When I went to the Olympics, did I pay for that damn medal? No.
Echoing what many fighters have quietly complained about for years, young star Keyshawn Davis didn't hold back in defending Crawford. "I never understood why we become champions and have to pay for a belt," Davis said. "Keep that. When I went to the Olympics, did I pay for that medal? No. So keep the belt. I agree with Terence." Davis's remarks resonated widely across the sport, calling out what he saw as blatant hypocrisy. Fighters dedicate years of hard work to reach the top, only to be told they owe money for something they rightfully earned.
If I walk into this arena without this belt, is these people still gonna show up? Yes. So keep the belt. You're not gonna take my money. With all due respect, you know what I'm saying? I just feel like, so I agree with Terence, you know what I'm saying? But I just don't agree with paying for belts. That's why, for all the sanctioning bodies, you know what I'm saying? And I told this to the one that I was under, the WBO. I told him to. I said, I don't really believe in that. Right. And he explained why. And I was like, okay, but I still don't agree with it. You know what I mean? So, like, I'm always going to be, like, for not paying for belts. Because what the fuck are we paying?
He said what so many others had been too afraid to voice. "If I walk into this arena without this belt, people are still going to show up. So why the hell should I pay for it?" For younger fighters, Crawford wasn't walking away. He was standing up, doing what no one else dared, directly challenging boxing's sacred institutions. But the establishment wasn't about to let that slide quietly. WBC President Mauricio Suleiman took the diplomatic approach, yet the tension was palpable.
With $225,000 going to the Jose Suleiman Boxers Fund, which is to help former fighters in need. and it is just regrettable. Not even a thank you or I'm sorry, taking a different route, no response. I wish him the best. But this is not. The WBC is huge, it's great, it's about greatness, and I'm relieved, to tell you the truth.
I'm not going to entertain or get into a pissing contest with Terence Crawford, WBC President Mauricio Suleiman told reporters. We care about the boxers. We wish him success in and out of the ring. He explained that sanctioning fees weren't about greed but were intended to support the Jose Suleiman Boxers Fund, which provides financial aid to retired and struggling fighters. Still, many fans remained unconvinced. Meanwhile, veteran ring announcer Jimmy Lennon Jr. described the feud as ugly and unfortunate.
I think, like Mauricio, I'm going to take a high road, but I will say it's unfortunate for the sport of boxing. I think talking about money too much, and it is not the high road. And so we've seen some kind of ugly and not so pretty things, exchanges happen here. And so it's unfortunate, but it is a reality. I think there's some things behind the scenes that I have heard about that aren't necessarily public yet.
Talking about money too much isn't the high road, Lennon said, noting that this kind of ugliness has always existed behind the scenes and that it's unfortunate to see it play out in public. Behind the polished statements and carefully worded interviews, there was genuine concern. Fear that Crawford's rebellion might inspire other fighters to follow suit. Then came the wild card, rapper Cameron, who dropped a take that quickly went viral across sports media.
Listen, to be honest with you, he brought a lot of light that I didn't know about when it came to the sanctioning fees. And it seems like one big extortion game. I've seen Floyd say it before, belts collect dust, the money is what really matters. As long as he gets his money and everything else, I think we already know he's a perennial world champion.
Cameron didn't hold back, shining a light on what many didn't realize. These sanctioning fees, one big extortion game, he said. Quoting Floyd, he added, belts collect dust. The money is what really matters. To Cameron, Crawford wasn't being unreasonable. He was brave. He reminded fans that Crawford is 42-0, one of the greatest fighters ever, and no sanctioning body could take that away. Crawford remains the pound-for-pound king. Cameron argued he was simply exposing the system. His remarks quickly went viral, spreading across social media, talk shows, and boxing podcasts. For the first time in decades, fans weren't just questioning the fighters, they were questioning the institutions themselves. And amid all the noise, one outsider from the combat sports world, UFC President Dana White, stepped in with a dose of reality.
If you look at how this thing's playing out, and first of all, let me say this. I love that all these guys, all these boxing guys, love the Ali Act the way it is now. I want to see how many of them actually stay there and do that version of the Ali Act instead of the add-on that we're going to do.
Dana White didn't stay silent, weighing in with brutal honesty. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to see what's going on, he said. The guys crying the loudest are the problem. Crawford's his own man, doing his own thing. We'll see how it plays out.
You know what I mean? You don't have to be a fucking rocket scientist to see what's going on with all these guys. All these guys that are crying the loudest are the fucking problems. They're the problem, every one of these guys.
White's comments hit hard, not because they were controversial, but because they rang true. He had predicted that boxing's fixation on politics, sanctioning fees, and power struggles would push away its biggest stars, and now that prophecy had come to pass. After decades of dominance, Crawford was done fighting the system. He wasn't beaten, he was fed up. The lawsuits, the greed, the endless politics, everything had taken its toll. The man who once carried boxing on his back was now walking away from it. Yet the world was left with one lingering question. Is this farewell for good, or just a pause before one final fight?
Whether it took me however many years to get to the point where I'm at, I did it my way. You know, a lot of people can't say that. A lot of people can criticize me and say, oh.
Terence Crawford's decision to walk away marks the end of one of the most extraordinary careers in modern boxing. A three-division world champion, undisputed at welterweight, undefeated in 42 professional fights, a masterful technician in the ring, a silent killer whose dominance was matched only by his discipline, he is now stepping away on his own terms. Not because he lost, not because he's past his prime, but because he's simply had enough. For his fans, it's a heartbreak, the farewell no one wanted. For Crawford, it's liberation, freedom from a system that no longer deserves him. As one insider put it, they can take the belt, they can take the license, but they will never take what he built.
Terence Crawford's right. And it's rich as from the WBC, because if they upheld all their rules in their little manifesto, if they upheld them all the time, on time, then do you know something? They might get a bit of sympathy from here. When you have guys holding #1 positions in weight.
Whether this retirement is permanent or not, one thing is clear. Terence Crawford has forced boxing to confront a truth it has long ignored, that the fighters are the soul of the sport, and when they begin to walk away, the empire starts to crumble. So, what do you think? Did Terence Crawford really quit for good, or is this his way of reclaiming power from the establishment that tried to control him? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe, because if this truly is the end of Crawford's career, it's a chapter the boxing world will never forget. Until next time.